We are delighted friends to have with us here Ms. Mariette Valsan, a model, actor, and activist, as our guest speaker on the topic, The Color of Advertising.
It's recording. It's making a video.
It's transferring.
Transferring. You click on this.
Mariette has 6 years of modeling experience. She has worked for brands like Garnier, L'Oreal, Coca-Cola, Old Spice, and Tanishq. She has appeared on the cover of Maxim India and Femina India. Mariette has a degree in English literature and a postgraduate degree in corporate communications. She campaigns for children's rights and speaks up against colorism in the entertainment industry. In her spare time, she surfs and scuba dives around the world. Today, she will touch upon the notions of image, public and private, perception of models, women and patriarchy, colorism, and dreams. Please welcome Mariette Valsan. Mariette,
thank you so
the stage
much.
is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brian, for that lovely introduction. I just wanted to check with you, is my voice clear?
It's absolutely clear.
Fantastic. Good morning, Principal Ma'am. Thank you for having me, Ms. Roxana Singh and Dr. Brian Mendonca, who so cordially invited me to share my experiences with the entire class. And thank you to all of you for taking out time to attend and listen to me speak or perhaps yammer on a bit. Please be patient in case I fumbled a little here and there, but I am very excited to have this opportunity to share my experiences. One of the things that I hope that this talk, and I hope that it'll also be a conversation, because I will be raising questions and I expect interaction from you guys. So I don't know how you want to handle that, because I don't know if there's a hand raising system in this Google Meet, but it is going to be an interactive session along with me providing my perspective. And I really hope that if you can take away more than one thing from this, that would be absolutely incredible. But I hope that the one thing that you can take away from my experience and everything that I've been through so far is to stay true to yourselves, because that, I believe, that's been my defining factor for everything that I have done in my life and in my career, is to stay true to the values that I hold and to stay true to who I believe I am. And that's what's kept me going. So I hope that that's something that you can take away from this. If there's anything more, I would be extremely, extremely happy. And yes, like I said, I don't want to have, I of course, Dr. Brian had sent in some of the questions that all of you had. I won't be addressing them individually at the moment. What I will do is I will go through my the little bit of the talk that I have prepared. And like I said, we can have, if you guys have questions in the middle, I would be more than happy to take them. After we're done, if there's something that you feel that you still have to ask me and I haven't addressed, I would be more than happy to address that to the best of my ability. Thank you. So on that note, may I start? I'm waiting for a yes. May I start, Dr. Brian?
Yes, go ahead, Mariette. You are doing
Okay.
wonderfully. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so
100
much.
people watching you, and you are
Thank
going.
you.
And
no
it's being
pressure.
recorded.
No pressure
Yeah.
at all. Yeah, no pressure. Oh, fantastic.
Absolutely. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I would actually want to have, I'm going to pose a question at this moment. One of the things that is most important in the career of a model or an actor or someone who's in the public eye for a majority of their life is the word image. So I just wanted to understand, when the word image is thrown, and it's a word that's thrown around so often, perhaps if I could have a couple of, I don't know how you want to answer it, but I really would like some of the girls to, or some of the young ladies, to tell me when the word image is, when you hear the word image, what is the idea that you sort of get? What is it when you think of the image of someone you admire? What is it that the word brings up for you? Are there any adjectives that come up when you think of the word image? If I don't know how people can answer this, I genuinely am looking for a few answers. Personality, yes. Yes, personality,
Ma'am,
yes. I think everyone's just
keeping a
texting it.
social status.
Keeping a social status, yes, that's true. Our behavior towards a particular person, the way you carry yourself, yes. Their looks, okay, that is important in today's day and age, and I'm glad you brought that up as well. Respect, okay.
Ma'am, I
Okay,
think confidence.
confidence. So those are okay, great. I'm going to take some of those things that you said. So there are two things that their honesty. So there are two things that some of you mentioned. One, you guys mentioned things like their perception, their personality, the way people sort of view them. That's one side of it. Another thing that y'all mentioned a lot of characteristics like honesty, etc. But that honesty is what the result of an image is. So an image is technically, very simply put, something that other people think of you. It is not necessarily what you may think or believe of yourself. An image is what is projected. It is what everyone else around you thinks of you, whether you are aware of it or not. So, one of the things that is most important as a public figure is to sort of be cognizant of what that image is and to be able to have some sort of control over that image. Now, obviously, us going along in life in this time, in this day and age when we have the internet that's accessible to everyone, we have social media, those are a lot of the tools that are used in today's day and age to create, build, and perhaps even control an image. But those are the very things that can also allow the image to spiral out of control based on what the narrative is. So, one of the most important things for someone who is a public figure is to figure out what your narrative is. What is the story that you want to tell? Everything in today's world, I believe, is a story. Whether if I meet any one of you in person and I'm like, hi, tell me a little bit about yourself. Essentially, you will be telling me a story. You're telling me a story about yourself. And it is that story, when constantly repeated and constantly put together, will then build an image of that person. So perhaps if any of you have, or if you will later, go to my Instagram, you will see certain pictures and certain descriptions that I put that continuously work towards building a story of who I am and what I do. So the story will involve my work, will involve the kind of work that I do, will involve perhaps what I do outside of work, the personality that I am, the things that I take up, the activities that I take up, which add to the idea of my personality and add to the idea of image. Now, one of the things that people very often confuse and mistake is people think that the image is the entire person. And that's not necessarily the case. In fact, a lot of times it really isn't the case. A lot of us, when we look at some of our favorite celebrities, right? Either they're people that you perhaps follow for the longest time. You have certain ideas about them. And let me, for example, play around with that. Now, suppose I think I name a celebrity like Salman Khan. Now, if I name a celebrity like Salman Khan, and just like you guys put in the thing, can you tell me, just give me maybe one or two words about what you think of Salman Khan? What are the first few words that come to your mind when you think of Salman Khan, or when someone says Salman Khan? I'm actually waiting for you guys to answer. Arrogant, unmarried. Okay. That's an interesting point. Unmarried. Big boss. No, I'm not talking about the work that he's done. His body. Okay, there you go. Yes. What else do you think of when you think of Salman Khan as a person? When you're thinking of him as a person, if you had to describe Salman Khan to someone who has no idea what he is, if no one knows who Salman Khan is and you met one human being who doesn't know who Salman Khan is, what are the words that you'll use to describe him? Humorous. King of Bollywood. Okay. Kindness, funny, generosity. Okay, that's great. So there are a lot of thank you for that, ladies. There are a lot of the charity that he does. There are a lot of positive things that honestly evolve around his kindness, his charity, his idea of helping others, and all of the work that he does. But now, what if I told you this is an entirely constructed image? Because one of the things that we have, no one has mentioned so far, I don't know if the other people didn't answer, but I don't know if you guys remember, but Salman Khan is actually a convict. Salman Khan has been arrested for killing endangered animals. Salman Khan has also been arrested for driving drunk and for, I think running over people, if I'm not wrong. He ran over people who were living on the footpath, right? So, in essence, if any other normal person, if you or I did that, the word that would be used for us is murderer. That is the word that would be used for us. We would be in jail, we would be murderers, and we would be in jail. That's the perception that we would have. But all of the words that you guys used now are words that have been carefully constructed and carefully and properly, with great thought, pushed forward by his entire team to make sure that you, as a person, as a member of the public, forget all of the other things that he has done. And you focus on the charity, the humor, the fun, all of which are probably also parts of his personality. Like, for example, this is some inside information for you guys. Being human is his charity. Oh God, is this going to go on YouTube? Then I'm not going to bitch about him too much. But my point is that it's all, and he probably is a wonderful human being, right? But you need to also be cognizant of image and how much of image is constructed versus how much of image is real. Now, we are, of course, talking about someone who has the money and the power to create all of these things. But if you break it down to a smaller level, what about yourselves? What are the ideas that you have about yourselves? And what are the ideas that others have about yourselves? Perhaps that's an interesting exercise that you could do with yourselves and with your friends on your own time, is to find out what is it that you think you are. What are the key adjectives or the key words that you would use for yourself? And what are the key adjectives and key words that perhaps your friends would use for yourself? One of the fun things that this was something that I had experienced when I was in college and when I was doing my postgraduate degree from the Xavier Institute of Communications. And it was such a beautiful gift that our teacher decided to give us on the last day of school, where we all took a large A4 size sheet of paper and wrote down our names at the bottom of the sheet of paper. And then that was passed on to the person on the left. There were 56 students in my class. And the person on the left would just write down one sentence that they thought would describe the person whose name is at the bottom and fold it over so that the next person couldn't see. And when everyone kind of wrote that, it came back to the person whose name was there. And it was so beautiful because surprisingly, there are a lot of things that people, of course, kept it very positive and people were very kind. And there are a lot of things that, say, I can speak only for myself, that people believed about me and saw about me that I didn't realize that I was or that I was doing. Because another thing that we, especially as women in society today, tend to do is that we tend to put ourselves down very easily. There are a lot of people who say that, oh, but women are so obsessed with the way they look and they're so, and there are a lot of words that people very often use for women, but I feel like most women are prone to either being egoistic, and this is a generalization, so it does not apply to everyone, but egoistic. But I think below the ego, there is a grave amount of insecurity that is fueled by society. So I wouldn't even say it's entirely our fault or an individual's fault, because we live in a society that's constantly telling women that we are not enough. We are not enough in what we do. We are not enough in how we look. We are not enough in everything that we are striving to be. So, for example, this kind of idea that people are trying to create of women is not something that is recent. It, in fact, goes back way back into history, where if you read up historical books and if you read up art, it is described as the goddess whore complex. So women are essentially bracketed into two categories, unfortunately, only. And of course, now there are perhaps different variations, permutations, combinations, and variations of these two categories. But essentially, there are two categories. Either she's put in the category of the goddess, or she's put in the category of a whore or a prostitute. Now, I'll tell you what, when you break down okay, so let me ask you this now. When I use the word goddess, what are the adjectives that come to your mind? Go ahead, type for me again. What are the adjectives that come to your mind when I use the word goddess? Powerful, elegance, pure, holy, grace, sacred, kind, fantastic. Okay, so giver, wonderful. And these are all elements that are found in, say, the female form. So it's really attributed to women as such. Women are expected to be this all the time, in every single role that they essay, be it of a daughter, a wife, a mother, a girlfriend, a sister, whatever. All of these categories. Sacrificing woman, yes, very, very important. That's a very important thing. A woman is always equated with the word sacrificing, which is never really used for men. Men are not really expected to be sacrificing. And this is not for me to say again that, and that's because we very actively live in a system that is patriarchal, that favors the masculine. And patriarchy does not only affect women negatively, but it also affects men negatively. And I will go into that in a bit. Now tell me, if I use the word whore or prostitute, what are the words that come to mind? What are the words that come to mind when I use the word whore? Dirty, cheap, shameless, yes. Gold digger, yes. Used, yes. Come on, give me a few more and then I'll continue. Give me a few more words. When you think of if someone, and I feel like people do this to each other. Unholy, yes. Vulnerable, very interesting. Okay. So other than the word vulnerable, characterless. Oh, there was a long sentence that I missed out. Serves the family by earning money. Good job, Preeti. That's actually true. That's more of a truth than a perception. Someone with no self-respect. Okay, fantastic. So you've given me some brilliant adjectives. Now, if we break down this entire thing, right? And in fact, someone mentioned that someone who's serving their family or trying to take care of their family. When we break down all of these adjectives, they're the exact opposite to what you would use for the word goddess, right? But now, if we break down a lot of these words, when you say unholy, not sacred, dirty, a lot of these words, again, why is this person considered unholy? Why is this person considered dirty? And I'm not talking about, say, even a prostitute in this day and age, because perhaps there are a lot of economic and financial reasons and social reasons why they do the job they do. Because another thing that people again tend to forget is that everyone blames the woman. Everyone blames the woman for being a prostitute, for selling herself, because another thing that patriarchy and society pushes is virginity, or the idea of virginity being sacred or holy. And the reason I'm bringing up all of these things is for you girls to understand that there are a lot of concepts and ideas that will constantly be pushed on you through your entire life. Always ask the question why. Even if you decide to follow it, you should be clear in your head why you're doing what you're doing. Whether it is something that's only it's because it's been done and it's tradition and it's been taught to you, or because you actually understand what you're doing. And therefore, I'm bringing up all of these concepts, right? So when we say a lady who is a prostitute is characterless or doesn't, it also boils down to someone who cannot be controlled by society. Someone, that's another perspective that I'm giving you for you to think about. And when we throw these words on women who are not actually selling their bodies for a living, who are not actually doing that, but we call women who perhaps don't fit into our idea of what a proper woman should be, we end up saying, oh, look at her, she's such a whore. Oh, look at her, oh my God, she's behaving like a slut. She's doing this. Why? Because there is an idea that a woman is supposed to be pure, is supposed to be locked up, is supposed to be put on a pedestal, and is supposed to be holy, is supposed to be only these amount of characteristics, which actually, if you look at it, are euphemisms for being caged. Any woman who does things that does not fit into these categories And perhaps in another perspective, if you look at it, is living life exactly the way she wants, is free, is doesn't follow any rules and doesn't fit into the norms of society, is then demonized by society. She is, and this is something that has been happening historically. So when we used to have those Salem witch burnings, and women in Europe used to be burnt during the medieval ages, and witches in Europe and witches in America used to be burnt during the medieval ages. You and I both know there are no such thing as witches. But again, the reason these women were caught and burnt at that time was because they perhaps did things that society did not accept and society did not understand at that point. A lot of the women, in fact, who were caught and burnt were women who would work with natural medicine, women who would actually work on healing. There were healers. They would live out in the forest and they would understand the herbs and the plants, and they would understand the natural ways of doing things to help other women. But because it did not serve the process of control of society, is why they were demonized. And this brings me back to today's day and age, right? Where there is an ideal characteristic for women. A woman has to always strive to fit into a certain ideal, which also then comes back to what I do as a model or an actor, but mostly as a, yeah, it actually goes into acting as well, but mostly as a model, where there are certain perceptions that are constant. And there are certain perceptions that constantly weigh down on what a model should or should not be. So, for example, if I ask you guys, or you young ladies, when you say, when you hear that, oh, this one's a model, what are the adjectives that come to mind? This is one. Tall, okay. Pretty, poised. She looks good, beautiful, stylish, beautiful, beautiful, bold. What do you mean by bold? What does bold mean? Can someone explain to me what bold means when you say bold? Whoever wrote bold, can you brave and fierce? Okay, fantastic. Right. So these are the perceptions of what a model. Confident. Yes, absolutely. Bold as in someone who can speak well. Okay, great, great. Okay, that's what I just wanted to be clear about that. Okay, that's great. You guys have very positive perceptions of models, which is absolutely fantastic. But let me tell you a little story about what I went through when I became a model initially. And when my parents sort of bold like me, thank you very much. But when I started this stubborn, interesting, when I started this career, I started it with, and I still continue to do it with no godfather. I started it on my own terms. A little bit about how my journey started, and it doesn't happen very often. As you know, like Dr. Brian introduced me and said, Mike, I was set to build my career in public relations and corporate communications. I started working in an office, in an international office. I worked for PR Newswire, whose offices were based in London and New York. And so I was kind of working in the Indian division that we were setting up. And I never thought of modeling and never thought of acting. This was not really a career plan. And it's not a career that you can entirely plan, to be very honest. But it wasn't something that was on my mind at all, because I grew up looking at women. When I was growing up, my friends' parents and my mother's friends were women in the IAS, in the IFS, in the IPS, and I actually wanted to be in the Indian Police Services because one of my mother's closest friends was in the Indian Police Services, and I absolutely love and adore her and look up to her. So those are the kind of role models that I had when I was growing up. So being a model and an actor was never really on the cards, and it happened quite out of the blue when I'd gone with a friend who wanted to record an audition for a show. So we had gone to this little Goan Portuguese heritage village in Mumbai called Kotachiwadi. A designer spotted me there and he asked me, Mariette, do you model? And my response to that was no, because that's not a job. And luckily for me, he didn't listen to me. He actually pushed me, put me in touch with some people. From them, I got my first job. My first agency saw me. And the first job that my agency got me was an all India campaign for Coca-Cola India. Now, I realize how privileged I am because this is not how a lot of people and a lot of people who strive and work hard to be models, this is not how their careers go. There are usually lots of years of struggle that go into it. But for me, my first campaign was a Coca-Cola India campaign that was started in 2012. And by the end of 2012, I was already on the cover of Maxim, shooting for the cover of Maxim India, with 6 other models who were being declared as one of the top models in the country. So my rise to that was fairly fast. And it sort of was so interesting to me because I didn't feel like I followed any of the things that were supposed to be done. I didn't attend any parties. I didn't schmooze and interact with a lot of people. But what I did do was I worked hard. I looked at all of the people that were successful. I looked at what they were doing and I emulated that to the best of my ability, which is something that I believe is a great formula for when you really know where you want to go. I didn't know where I wanted to go, but I looked at the people who were on top and I kept asking myself, who are the people they work with? How do I get to work with them? And I obviously couldn't work with the biggest people when I started. So the next thing I did was I worked with their assistants or the people who worked with them. And that's what and I worked a lot for free in the first 2-3 years that I worked because I just wanted my work to get out there. And that I feel is really important in your lives when it's not always necessary to go to know exactly where you're going. But as long as you have a general idea, look at all the people you admire. Look at all the people who are in front of you. Look at all the people who you look at and say, oh, wow, they're doing really well. They are very inspiring to me. See what they're doing and see how you can perhaps emulate it to the best of your ability. Because copying never works, but being inspired is definitely something that will help push you to reach where you want to go. So that was something that I did personally to reach where I am. And it was so interesting because growing up, I was often considered I'm called a tomboy. I was the kid who would play all the sports with all the boys, and I would be the first one to climb trees. I've been an athlete. I've played basketball, volleyball, football for my school, college, at the state level. I've represented Kerala. So I've always been an athlete. And so when my friends also found out about me doing this job, they were shocked. But again, the interesting thing is, I come back to the idea of perception. The interesting thing is that a lot of the people who knew me much before I started this career had certain ideas and perceptions about me. But when I started this career, suddenly there was a lot of concern that came to me because of the perception of the industry, where people believe that in the industry you only have to sleep with other people to get work. So suddenly there was a lot of concern that was coming towards me saying, Mariette, I hope you'll be okay. You just take care of yourself. Don't let people take advantage of you. And some of it was genuine concern, but a lot of it was veiled concern under the guise of actually wanting to question me and my moral values. One of the things that kept me going was a strong belief that I have in myself because I know who I am. I know what I will do to get where I need to go, and I know what I will not do to reach a certain place. But I'm sure of that, and that's something that I feel like women are never told enough because we need to really be sure of who we are. And I don't mean sure of who we are being the kind of person who knows exactly what they're doing all the time. I half the time don't know what I'm doing at all. And if you ask me my plans, I don't know what my plans are next week, much less know what my plans are, for my life. But what I do know is, I do know that I know myself. I know that no matter what the world throws at me, no matter how down I get, no matter how sad I get, no matter how difficult things are, I am the kind of person who let it pass and I let myself feel. That's another thing that's constantly, I feel, slightly looked down upon when I come back to the woman are female characteristics. When people will tell you, you're too emotional, you're too sentimental, oh my God, you cry so much. Why is feeling a bad thing? Why is empathy a bad thing? It is not. In fact, if anything else, in today's day and age, we definitely need a lot more empathy. I believe that the reason we've reached this place where we're destroying our environment, where we don't care about the children, where we don't care about what is happening to the person next to us just because we want to step further and be successful is because of a severe lack of empathy. And empathy really needs to be, and if it isn't, it really should be something that you work on. It needs to be the defining factor for everything that you do in life henceforth, because being an empathetic human being genuinely is going to be what makes the world a better place. Now, I'll give you an example of that. I've always been empathetic towards the environment. I've been very cognizant of how we use plastic or what we use, whether how we treat animals, how we treat other human beings. And one of the things that I believe as I grow in influence is it is very important for me to use my voice to speak up against the things that bother me, to speak up against injustice, to speak up against things that don't work and that haven't been working, and to use my voice to influence a positive change. Because that is the point. When I have been given a platform, it is my solemn duty to use whatever platform I have to influence positive change. One of the ways I did this, I would like to share with you, is I got a call from Puma India last year in February telling me that they believe that I would be a great influencer for their brand, which made me laugh because I didn't think of myself as an influencer at all. And so I asked them, I said, what does being an influencer mean? And they said, well, we're going to send you free products every month and you have to take pictures with it and post it on your Instagram. And I was a little confused for a moment. And I said, so you're going to send me stuff from your brand for free? I said, yeah. And I said, just without you wanting anything from me, I don't have to do anything. They said, yeah, we're going to send it to you for free. We just wanted to post some pictures. And so I got my first pair of shoes for free and I was really excited. I was like, oh my God, this is actually happening. But then it struck me. I said, I'm a person who can afford a pair of Puma shoes. I can afford it. And I understand that this is part of a marketing campaign. But what is it that I can do to take it one step further? How can I use my influence to help other people? Now, one of the things that I actively do on the side is I volunteer with a village school called Nareshwari, which is based in Dahanu. Dahanu is on the outskirts of Maharashtra, between Maharashtra and Gujarat, near the border. And Dahanu is this absolutely wonderful village school that was started by the Somaya Foundation, where they've taken up an entire farm. And initially, the idea started was it was just a huge farm, and they were employing people from nearby villages to come work in the farm. And then they realized that the kids don't have a school, so they decided to start a school in the farm itself to have for these children to have a place to study. As they continued that process, they realized that there really isn't, while teaching them, the curriculum makes sense. They decided that it makes more sense to tailor the curriculum to what helps those children. So the children now they're children of the Warli tribe, so they're taught their traditional arts and crafts. They're taught the Warli painting. Please look it up if you don't know what Warli painting is. They're also taught sustainable farming. They're taught sustainable living. They're taught solar power. In fact, the entire school is run by solar power, so they have solar panels everywhere, which is used to heat water. Because the children are very poor and malnourished, there is a midday meal scheme that is provided by the school. But the school also procure seeds, vegetables, and plants that are grown in the farm itself. So the children are taught how to farm. The children's parents are taught how to farm. They take that information back. A lot of seeds are given on a yearly, annual basis or on a seasonal basis, so that even the villagers and the children and their parents can use little patches of land that they have to grow their own food in more sustainable ways. One of the things that had started there was they used to take old cows that stopped giving milk initially, but now from there they've started an entire dairy farm. So now there's a dairy farm that runs out of that. And I think I was in love with the way the school functioned and the values that it taught its children, because there were underprivileged children and it was very difficult for them to get access to anything. So everything that Nareshwari does for them is actively trying to make them more prepared for life, even if it is just in and around their village, in the town, or if they decide to go outside to study and in the big city. So when Puma came to me in the second month, and it was a 12-month contract, in the second month I thought to myself, and I used to go volunteer at this farm and mostly play basketball with them, play with the kids, try and do as much as I can to keep, just to have an interactive session. And the kids used to play basketball during their practices barefoot. And I just realized, if I'm someone who can afford all of these things, is getting shoes for free, surely if I have a conversation with Puma, they can perhaps sponsor the basketball team. So I had a conversation with Puma, and Puma went above and beyond anything that I ever expected. We managed to facilitate shoes, bags, and some amount of clothes for all 350 students that are housed in the school, because the school also is a boarding school and takes care of a lot of Adivasi children and children who are orphans as well. So Puma shockingly sent a truckload of things. I expected just a box to go for their basketball team, but they ended up sending an entire truckload of things to give the entire school, which was a brilliant surprise for them because I hadn't told the school what I was doing. And it was an incredible surprise for me. And the reason I want to share this story is because that's when I realized what the word influencer really means. You know, so when tomorrow, when you girls get into positions of power, when you girls get into positions of influencing people, of making decisions, the question should always be, what am I doing to help myself? What am I doing to help society? And what am I doing to help those who cannot help themselves? Because if I have a voice that I can use, it is truly my duty to understand and represent those who are voiceless in the best way I can without being egoistic about it. And that's something that I just wanted to share with you because I think it's very important for all of us, and especially all of you as young women going into the world further, to really use everything that you're learning. And it may be in whatever way, right? It may be in small platforms where you talk to your families. Maybe you talk to your younger cousins and brothers and talk to them about how women should be treated, how a girl having her period is not something to be made fun of, how calling someone, even words are very powerful, how calling someone a girl is not an insult. Why is it an insult to call someone a girl? And you know you've heard people use this. It's not an insult. So we really, as a community, need to start redefining how we use words, what they mean, and what their connotations are. Becoming to taking going forward from that, when I say the word girl, one of the things I wanted to actually ask you, because I've heard this sentence a lot and I used to take pride in it initially, but has anyone ever said to you, you know, especially boys actually, have they ever said to you, oh, you're so nice, or you're so this, that, you're not like other girls? Is that a sentence you've ever heard? You're not like other girls? It's a question. Is that something that you guys have heard, not heard, or have you heard a variation of that before? Okay, you have. That's great. I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one. So when I was growing up, I used to take pride in that. I used to take pride in the fact that people used to tell me, oh, you know, you're not like other girls. And I'm like, yeah, because other girls are just so boring and they don't play sports and they don't do this and they're very whiny. Until as I started growing up, I realized that no, I'm also a girl. And I can be both things. I can also be really strong and brave, and I can also cry, and I can also be upset about things that are happening. Why is being a girl an insult? And when I accept a compliment that says you're not like other girls, that means I am willing to put down my entire gender, to feel better about myself. So I refuse to accept that as a compliment because it is not a compliment. The next time someone tells you you're not like other girls, you should turn around and ask them, what do you mean? Because Mother Teresa was a girl, and look at what she's done. Amelia Earhart was a girl. She flew a plane around the world. Hillary Clinton is a girl. Well, thanks to American politics is a whole other story, but she's doing a great job in her own capacity. Meghan Markle, Angelina Jolie, actors are coming to mind right now because of my frame of reference. But there are so many girls who are going about changing the world. So being like other girls, when someone says you're not like other girls, that's not a compliment. Don't let them say that to you. Correct them. Because all girls, no matter what they are and who they do, are doing the best that they can based on the information that they have, based on the knowledge that they have, and based on the opportunities that they have. Because the fact is, especially in a country like India, when you come from underprivileged families, women are not given the same opportunities that young boys are. Because that's how our system is constructed, our society is constructed. We still do live in a very patriarchal society. So that's definitely not a compliment, guys. That's not a compliment. I think one of the other things that I wanted to share with you also about when we were talking about women and girls is, so where I told you that one of the first things, and it was one of the biggest achievements of my life, starting early on in my career, was to be on the cover of Maxim. I was on the cover of Maxim India with 6 other models who I had looked up to, I had seen as top models, and I was placed in the same category as them. And I remember I was so excited to wait for the cover to come out. Now, one of the things that you do know is the cover was beautifully shot by one of the top photographers in the country, Jatin Kampani, who is one of my favorites. And all of us were posing nude on the cover. So it's very aesthetically shot. We were posing nude on the cover, and I was really excited to see what it would look like. Now, this is advice from me to you. If any of you ever become famous and things come up about you on the internet, please do not read the comment section. Don't read the comment section. People are horrible in the comment section. But I, of course, did not have anyone to give me this advice at that point. So I did read the comment section when the cover came out online first before I actually got the hard copy. And it shocked me. It was shocking to the extent that's when I really understood the perception that people have towards women in this country and towards models in this country. Because remember, we were posing nude on the cover, but you can't really see anything. You guys can Google the cover later. It's a January 2013 Maxim India cover. And the comments were brutal. It went from, I hope these girls were paid a lot to do this. I can't believe this is why Indian society is going down the drain. My God, they don't have any sanskar, they don't have any culture. I wonder if they're prostitutes. 2, rape threats. That's right. We actually got threats of rape. I hope these girls are raped. This is why rapes happen. Women like this are the ones who deserve to be raped. Women, this is the reason why all of the other rapes happen, and then they are the ones who go around complaining. And it shocked me to my core because I have always grown up knowing that in a situation as serious as rape, you do not blame the victim. It does not matter if a woman is walking down the street naked. No one has the right to touch her. But we have all been brought up in a society where the blame is placed on the victim. The blame is placed on the woman. Like you will always say rape victim. She's not a victim. Now the new terminology is rape survivor. Because we're not going to have women who go through things as horrible and abuse as rape be defined by that. So language also plays a very, very important part in when we talk about what happens and in when we talk about experiences. A lot of times when we look at the language of reporting, when you look at newspapers and when you look at the reporting of rapes, it says so-and-so was raped, as if it's something that just happened, that there was no one involved in this process. But no, more often than not, there was a person of the opposite gender, usually male, involved in the process. So rather than saying Nirbhaya was raped, the headline should be the bus driver and young men raped Nirbhaya. Because that is what happened. The entire thing is a consequence of an abuser. Even if we bring it down to people who are abused, be it in domestic violence, be it in verbally, physically, otherwise, when women are abused, they're always looked as abused and battered women, and there never is any onus blamed on the abuser, or there's never any onus placed on the abuser. And that's why language is also very important. And I'm telling you all of these things so that you are cognizant whenever the next time it is when you read things. Really delve into it and understand what is it that they are saying. Where is the blame being placed? And it is so important because the more aware we are, the more we can demand change. And change is very important. Right now, you guys are in college, you'll be graduating tomorrow, you're going to be in charge of a lot of decisions. You're going to be talking to a lot of people, you're going to be in positions of influence and positions of power. It is very, very important to be aware of how language is used, because language changes the way things are perceived. And it comes back to my initial point where image and perception in today's world play a very large part in where you get in life. Image and perception are very important. But having said that, because you know this and because you're educated and aware, also understand that image and perception are not everything. What you do is more important than what people think you do. So I think, and if we talk about this, how do you think, if we have to talk about the change of conversation and the way women are perceived, it is very important to talk to the men in your life. It is very important to talk to the younger brothers in your life. It is very important to talk to your fathers, your cousins, your friends, because subconsciously and unconsciously, a lot of these ideas are perpetuated in daily language. Call it out. Tell people that it's not okay. They're going to tell you, oh my God, you're so stuck up, chill. I was joking. I was making a joke. When we make jokes about things like this, we desensitize humans into when the actual effect happens, when there is an actual incident, and the gravity of the situation is lost. So, no, there are certain things. It is okay to make light of it, but provided you're in control. When someone who is in a position of power is making fun of someone who has no power, that's an abuse of power. That's not a joke anymore. So you must always be cognizant of language. I think it is very important. And that sort of brings me to the end of towards the end of what I wanted to speak about is that all of this comes down to what you're going to do in the future, what kind of influence that you're going to have. And you are going to have an influence. It doesn't matter whether it's on one person, five people, whether you have a stage like I'm blessed enough to have to be able to talk, or whether you have a larger stage than I do, right? It is very, very important to understand what you do, what you say, what influence you have, and how you use that influence. I would have talked about colorism because that's one of the topics that I speak about very often, where I feel like in India we're gravely discriminated against based on the color of our skin. And this goes way back down to, of course, we can spend a lot of our time blaming the British because we've looked at the British and white skinned people as gods for the longest time. But it goes way beyond that to casteism and the inherent caste and bias, the caste system that we have had in our country for centuries, that is constantly demonizing people who are of a lower caste and therefore demonizing people who have a darker skin color. But the reason I talk about this is because I have the position, I have the influence, I have been affected by this, though not in as extreme a case as many of my other peers, and I know many women and men who have been affected by colorism and casteism. I can't even begin to express how bad it perhaps has been for them because I've been privileged enough to not experience things to that degree. But I will speak about it because if I have a position of privilege, I will continue to use that position to the best of my ability. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. I hope that it wasn't too serious, but I just wanted to leave you with the thought that you have more power than you think you do. And I think that it is so important that you use all of your influence, however big or small it may be, to create a positive change. One of the things that I define my life is if I meet someone for the first time, have I left them better or worse than before they met me? They shouldn't regret meeting me, even if it's just saying a kind word to a stranger or complimenting someone on the way they look. I don't lose anything. So be kind. You lose absolutely nothing by being kind, and that really should be something that defines you. Thank you for listening to me. I am done. If you guys have any questions, I would be more than happy to take them.
We thank you so much, Mariette. We'll take a few questions. And
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Students, you're free to ask questions right now.
Yeah, please, whatever you want, I'll be happy to answer.
Ma'am, I'd like to ask you a question.
Hi, Natasha. Yes, please.
Ma'am, generally purpose is one of the key factors when we look for a career. What purpose does a model seek when she's walking the runway or when she's posing for a brand?
So
What's the
yes,
purpose
you
behind?
had
Thank you,
sent
ma'am.
that in. Thank you, Natasha, for that question. You know what? When I say purpose, purpose is a much larger word than what you're doing in an immediate sphere. So something that may seem perhaps not as big or may seem frivolous to you might have a different idea for the person who's doing it. So, for example, like I said, my purpose is to leave the world a little better than it was when I came in whatever way I can. Now, me walking down a ramp, me doing an ad for a certain product, me doing a photo shoot. Right now, I'm sitting in a hill station. I'm in Kerala. I'm in Munnar because I was flown down here to work, and we're working to for a magazine. We're doing a shoot. In the immediate sense of things, there you might not see a purpose, but I believe the purpose is to be creative, to constantly express, to create, and all of these things add up for me to create an influence where tomorrow I can use that influence to affect positive change. So you may not be able to see the purpose in the little things that you do, but you need to understand as an individual what it is that adds up to it. Now, someone who decides to only walk the ramp for the rest of their lives, for as long as their career lasts, perhaps their purpose is genuinely to just make money and be famous because they are probably supporting a family of four at home where no one else is getting employed. You and I don't know that looking at someone. It may look like to us when we're looking at someone in Big Boss, for example. We watch something like a Big Boss and we think, oh my God, these people are so like frivolous or whatever. But you and I have no idea how many loans they have. You and I have no idea if they've been brought up in an abused childhood, if they've had a hard time. They may come across spoiled and horrible on set or on camera. You have no idea if that one person who is trying to be who is trying behaving extremely frivolous and is behaving like you know in not perhaps in a way that you expect them to, maybe they were made fun of their entire childhood because they were different. You and I may never know the purpose of what someone else is doing, and to sit and question what other people's purposes are is not really our duty. Your duty is to figure out what your purpose is and what you can do to make the world a better place. Because if you waste your time thinking about what others are doing, you're going to be wasting a lot of time. And before you know it, your life's going to be over. Don't bother about what other people are doing. It's none of your business. If you have any other questions, go for it.
Ma'am, how would you change a perspective of the person who always believed that, okay, a certain career is bad? So how would you tend to change that person? Like that person has always believed that that career is not suitable for you. How would
Okay.
you change the person's perspective?
Um, well, in a sense, it literally just do what you have to do. See, the idea is always understand that people's perspectives come from the things that they have seen. So, for example, when say my parents have luckily have always been fairly supportive, but they also had ideas of what a model is. They also thought that the industry is a certain way. But the only way that I could change perspective is to continuously do what I had to do. I just continued to work. My parents perhaps wanted me to be certain things, but one of the things that I always would speak to my parents and I told them was, I said, guys, my aim in life is to be happy. As small as it may sound to you, I see so many people with money and so many people doing all the things that they want, and they're extremely unhappy. I'm sorry, but my aim in life is to be happy. And I would really like it if you guys were happy that I'm happy. And they've been, and it's not been easy for my parents. They've come around, but they've seen how hard I've worked. But one of the most important things is to have a conversation. I would constantly call up my mother every day. I speak to my mother every day, twice a day without fail. I tell her what's happening on my shoot. I tell her who the people are. I tell her what it is. I explain what my process is so that she doesn't have to listen to things that are said from the outside. She doesn't have to be based on, she doesn't have to base her ideas of my career on what she sees on the outside. She understands what it is I do and what the outcome is. So conversation is very important. So if you want to go about making a change, have conversation. And secondly, understand that beyond a point you can't control what others people think of you. You can't. So if people are hell-bent on deciding that you are a certain way, like certain people, when I did certain kind of jobs, have decided that I have loose morals, that's their problem. In my life, I have decided that the only people's opinions that matter to me are my mother's, my father's, my brother's, and the person I love, my partners. These are the 4 people whose opinions matter to me. They love me for who I am. The rest of it doesn't matter. And I've been lucky enough to have some amazing friends who know me for who I am and who've loved me like family. These are the people I have chosen. They're my chosen family. So it is you decide whose opinions whose opinions matter to you, and what value you decide to place on them. Because if someone's opinion is damaging you and making you more upset than not, it perhaps isn't worth it.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Ma'am, I have a question for you. Since you had no godfather in the industry, what were the things that you had to fight for to stay in this particular industry? Like, what are the things that you fight for to stay unique in this industry?
I still am. I feel some days I feel like I won't lie to you. I know that, if you look at my Instagram and if you look at all of my public things, it looks like I'm constantly out on the go, I'm shooting, and a lot of the times it is like that. But there are a lot of times when I don't have work, especially now when we had COVID. I had no idea where my career was going to go, to be very honest. I had no idea how shoots are going to happen because we were shut down. And this is one industry that you can't work from home. You cannot. But interestingly, I would like to share with you that we did manage to work from home. I managed to shoot an entire television commercial during the times of COVID when nothing was open out of my house, thanks to the internet, where the directors called in and they directed us through WhatsApp video. My brother, who knows nothing about filming because this is not his field at all, his field, he's a qualified engineer and now he works in artificial intelligence and he's doing a whole bunch of other things. I'll brag about him later. He's amazing. Sat and actually did an online course on how to do videography so that he could film me. And if you guys look it up, you should, it's Days of Love, the platinum ad. That's the ad that we shot entirely on our phones at home. So, I feel like it's always a learning curve. Life is a learning curve. You can be as prepared as you want. It's your job to be prepared. You can be as prepared as you want. But I think 2020 has taught us that it doesn't matter how prepared we are. We have no idea what life is going to throw at us. I don't know if that answered your question. Did it?
Thank you, ma'am. It somewhat did, yes.
Do I need to clarify anything else? I'll clarify what.
No.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Ma'am, do you have a plan B in choosing your career, or were you very sure and confident? Oh, no, I did not have a plan B and I was not sure and confident, not at all. I would always suggest that you guys have a plan B. Please do not, in this case, do as I say and don't do as I do. I don't have a plan B. But jokes aside, I know that I'm educated, I am qualified, and I know that worst case scenario, I can always walk into an office. I hope that I never have to sit in an office, but I know that I can always walk into an office and I can get a desk job because I speak well, I'm educated, and I have the experience. So I'm confident enough that I can do that. And I think that's one of the things that you always need to be. Just be confident. You'd be surprised at how far confidence can get you. So no, I don't have a plan B. I think I'll figure it out. But it would be nice if you guys have a plan B to your careers. It's advisable. It's good advice. Is there anything else? There were some other questions that were sent to me, but I don't think I've answered them. Natasha did the poster for this event. Thank you, Natasha. It's such a very good poster. Thank you so much. Please, Dr. Brian, you were asking me something, please.
It was a pleasure, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. We are running out of time over here.
Yes,
so
yes.
I will have to speak in a way that draws this rather exciting.
Brian, can I say a couple of words?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Brian, can I say a couple of words? Sorry.
Definitely.
Are you going to get me to me or are you closing up?
No. I was about to invite you.
Okay, so please do so, just in case you are not.
No. So I was happy to notice that Ma'am Elizabeth Valsan, your mother, has also joined. And it was
Is she here?
Yes, it's on the group already.
Oh, I see. Hi, Mom.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels really good. A special word of thanks going out to Ma'am Elizabeth Valsan for telling me about you and for being instrumental in, making all this happen. I also want to thank our principal who will speak now, and it's a pleasure to introduce and welcome Ma'am Aldina Gomes, officiating principal of Carmel College in Nueva Goa. Aldina, over to you.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you for having me, ma'am.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Actually, I know I had problems logging in initially, so I couldn't really get to be part of the initial program that I was supposed to be. But I'm glad that I didn't get a chance to log in earlier on, so I can say what I want to say now. But before I do that, I'll welcome your mom on to the forum as well and say what a lovely daughter you produced, because I was so impressed listening to you, and I must congratulate you, Mariette, because today's youth requires role models and mentors, and I think you are an excellent example of role model and a mentor for young women and young men as well, hopefully to change their thinking. I love the ideas that you put forth across with so much of confidence and belief, and I know you'll go a great way. What you're doing right now is what India needs. India needs more voices, more youngsters to stand up and speak up and say, no, this is not right, this is not going, this is our nation and you have no right to dictate to us. And I think the Finnish CAD was a brilliant, I really loved it. And when Brian told me that you were coming online, I was like very excited, because I said, wow, I need to hear this woman, and really hats off to you, and I wish you all the best. And thank you so much,
ma'am.
Thank you so much for making yourself available to us. I know your schedule must be hectic, but I can tell
we
you.
We manage the internet.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, and all the very best. I think you're very beautiful, not only in the outside, but also from the inside. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. All I ask is you keep me in your prayers.
That's I will.
Keep me going.
Yes, don't worry. You are the voice of the change for what India needs. And
thank you.
I think you're doing a beautiful job. You're showing to us that being a model, you have beauty and brains together. And I think that's an amazing thing, because a lot of young women aspire to be where you are.
Thank you.
All the very best to you as well.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Brian, over to you.
So thank you, Ma'am Aldina. Thank you very much for giving us that beautiful word of advice, and welcoming Mariette, telling her that she's so comfortable with whatever she says. And on that note, I'd like to draw this very exciting session to a close. I would especially like to thank the Department of English, my principal, Aldina, my head of department, Ma'am Roxana, and the entire Carmel faculty for helping us, and particularly our MIL students, Modern English Language students, A and B division, for inspiring us to take this to the next level. Mariette, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I wish you all the very best.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, and for all the ventures that you have lined up. May you always be successful. Once again, I thank Ma'am Elizabeth Valsan for joining us. I'm sure both of you are going to rock the world and change it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.